Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are the most trusted psychic mediums in Sedona, Arizona. We are Rosalind Reynolds, myself, Ivory Lanou, Terri-ann Russell, and Melissa Brace. We have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is light language. If you join us here live on the show, you're welcome to ask a question. If you're watching this later or listening on a podcast, please email your questions to us, and then that's in the show discussion and description. That way your questions will not disappear after a period of time like they do on YouTube. We're happy to answer them at any time. So, ladies, we have two ladies here who do quite a lot of light language, Terri-ann and Melissa. Would one of you like to talk about what you see light language as being?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Go ahead.
In my study over probably about the last decade, maybe a little bit less, of recognition of light language, I come to my own perspective, at least, is to think that we sometimes speak it and it's around us in patterns, everyone's tones, frequencies. So as we're moving beyond language into the light, it kind of comes through each one of us in different ways. But there are particular light languages throughout the universe in different ways that can help us uplift and help us on our journey, help us on our path, and our inner sacred union.
I like that. Did you want to add to that, Terri-ann?
Sure. For me, because I'm the newbie out of all of us, it was really interesting how it began for me. And I didn't really understand what it was at the time. I could start to see these images coming through like my third eye, and I would just naturally move my hands. And if I don't have paper or pen, Melissa has seen me do it, I'll do it, with my hands. But so through with paper and pen, I've been able to write light language out, and then have my clients be able to read it and then integrate it into their energy fields.
I've also heard and read about light language being the language of the angels. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think it comes from many different realms. I don't think it's just one species, because we're all so different. We've talked about this in several shows, that it is like our nationalities, right? Irish, Italian, whatever you are, we have multiple parts of us. So for me, it's my belief that it is a multi-dimensional language. It can come from angels, it can come from other realms.
It makes sense. It does. And it's interesting, like had this revelation last night as I'm laying in bed, just done talking to the angels. I realized that some of the symbols that I was shown by my first spiritual teacher many, many decades ago was these symbols that she described as being sacred geometry, and I didn't know any different at the time. But when I start looking at light language people have drawn and some symbols, a lot of them are light language, and I had no idea. I didn't think I was using light language.
That's how I started on my path as well, and I kept going. And like Terri-ann said, that sometimes and there's, you can look up on the internet and look up angelic like language written, probably several different aspects, and they sound different and they're from different frequencies. And that's how I learned as well, started my journey on learning this, or what that meant. Because back in the day, we didn't use the word light language, but it's also my belief, as we continue to grow and learn in these ways, and all of us have deeply spiritual paths and energetic paths in our work, and maybe the people at the restaurant that nourish us and feed us have a little light language in their purposes each day as well, and that tone or frequency goes in to giving and receiving as well. And I just find it fascinating because I think this subject can go on and on and on with whether it's written or spoken or tones of singing or color. It's God's overall, the divine's language to bring to us, and like Terri-ann said, like code, activate, help us find our wholeness in whatever ways, whatever aspects we're working on in ourselves. I just find it fascinating.
Whatever you want to call it, it sure is hot right now. I mean, it's everywhere on the internet in various forms. And I know we talked about this in advance because you two ladies do work with light language. You were going to bring some samples of light language to the show. Do you have those with you?
Yes.
Can you show them and talk about them, and can you interpret them? Is
Go
that
ahead, Melissa.
possible?
The only one that I have here in front of me would be speech, would be the frequency of sound. And so I just thought I would just show people just a tiny bit and do a tiny heart activation. And it's so silly because I still laugh. There are some other speakers and healers and teachers amongst us all over the world. And a couple of my favorite ones are so goofy when they're doing it. So that's part of the fun because we can kind of giggle and laugh and it opens us up. And so if you don't mind, I'll just, speak a little bit and do a little bit of a heart activation purpose is what this light language is for. And I've got I was thinking about this morning because Irie said, I've been learning and studying the different perspectives of other people and other teachers all over, and it kind of sounds like Klingon. And it made me giggle so much because I'm like, in mine in particular.
You just outed me as a total sci-fi nerd.
Exactly. I would love that high five from all the sci-fi nerds up in here. But I also think that, and for the, like the last decade, 10, 12, 15 years, sometimes when I'm nervous, scared, mad, sad, I'll just start speaking it in the car or when I'm very much by myself. And I have thought it sounds like a little bit of a mix between a little bit of Japanese, Klingon, and super dork.
And if it sounds like Klingon, it also sounds like Gaelic because that's pretty much interchangeable, just so you know. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, some of those old languages actually do have the imprinted frequencies of the divine in it. So here we go. If you would like to join me, you can speak at home, you can do it yourself because you can't do it wrong. That's what I gotta say. You just can't. So it's kind of like a divine prayer, and this is for heart activation for anybody that wants it. Eya, miesiantika, bibisiana ka, bibisiana shasija, imiam, bing. Brasbina shinema kiana ebepiasiana ifya. Ebiasama kiana tikaka. Didiasiana imebasiana or yazik ik. Emia bisana agianwa awasawa wa bin asivin yasiada. Emia sanisida taka. Muno.
That was beautiful.
It was, and I have to tell you, like when you first started, within seconds, I felt angelic energy, very high frequency coming in, moving up my body, kind of cocooning it in that high frequency energy. That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Do you know what it means, Melissa? Or do you like get a feeling in your heart about the intention? I know you were doing like an opening. Do you know what those words mean?
Since I'm already kind of an exaggerated character personality anyway, I move anyway. And I always say I add that air, the breath in, because it blows it out through us into each of our molecular structures, our emotional, physical, mental. I don't always know exactly what it means. Like it's not actually being translated in, like English for me all the time, but it is a resonance or a feeling. And I was praying about it the last couple of days, like, okay, if I'm going to do a little bit of what are we doing? And it was heart activation for humanity, for liberation from all of the pain that all of us throughout humanity history have been oppressed by in our lifetimes. And so it was just sort of, when I was doing that, I was, kind of channeling it. And it was just sort of like, open the next part of this, heart piece, and opening up. And it's almost like a blossoming, blooming is what I was receiving when I was doing it. So that's kind of how it works for me. And
That's what I thought.
It just, I can feel it more so than in perfect language.
It's not like you read it on a page and that symbol means this sound and that symbol means this sound.
No, there's so many different layers, right?
I think we can do that. I'm a little bouncy, so I don't do it. I have seen Terri-ann do it, where she just is out of, this is what this means. She's like riding 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, cool. And then I think all of us have had clients where over the many, many years that all of us have been doing this, have said that they've awakened at night, drawing symbols in the air. They have to write something down and having an intense understanding of a meaning, or like a couple of you said, like seeing this very strange, like sacred geometry language, or little, this doesn't seem like any of our worldwide languages written down. And in that, it's almost the light moves through that and moves through each one of our cells and layers of who we are and form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's not a human language. We can't expect it to operate like a human language would. Terri-ann, did you bring a sample of some writing?
I did. I was going through, so this is one of my most popular services. I have to say, I have so many clients. They're so interested, and I think because it's written out and they can download it, and I email it to them and they can print it out. So they have this physical piece of paper with them all the time so they can look at it. So this was this was really interesting. This came out in a triangle, and I had never drawn it like this before. So if you look at it, for me, like it starts at the top with the heart, and we go around, and then it goes into the middle, and then it goes down. But it's clearly, what I heard for this one was open and align clearly on your path, and then heart opening energy. A lot of the downloads and the light language that I write have to do a lot with heart activations. Here's another one. I really love this one. It almost, to me, looks like a musical note.
It does.
Wow.
That's really pretty.
Amazing.
I love that. And so this one was about not allowing others to take you off your path. Sing with your voice, open up that throat chakra and allow your truth to set you free. And then most recently, I've been doing color drawing. So these are a couple of my they're a little bit different than what these were. So you see the difference, and there's an eye in there.
Yeah, I saw that.
And this almost to me looks like a snake, but very different in the way it presents. So I never know what's going to come through when I'm doing a light language, or if I've been with a client and we're doing healing. I may just begin to write this, like Melissa said, write this light language over their body. I just may be guided to do that, and it's just something I do, and I do it it's like, how would I explain it? It's difficult to explain. It's like a part of me is coming to the forefront and just taking over my senses, and then I just begin to write it.
I like that. So it's definitely a channeling of light
Yes.
language. Before we go on to your work with this, I thought it would be fun. We had the spoken, we've had the written, and I found a really beautiful recording on YouTube of the singing I'd like to share. And hopefully I don't mess up the show doing this. I'm praying I don't. I'm going to put turn my video off for a minute while I do this, and you'll hear it. Okay. Got to find it here. Here we go. Bear with me. Here we go. And there we go. I'll turn my video back on. Her name is Ava Ike, in case you want to hear her. It was on YouTube. I hope I'm not butchering her name because I really like her singing. And she's Nordic. That I know. I couldn't get from her website exactly where she is. But if you want to hear more of her music, she's on YouTube under Ava, E-V-A, and her last name is E-I-K. So you can hear more of that. But I thought that was a really beautiful example of it. I'm sure it sounds different because I was telling Terri-ann I had by accident found a woman maybe 2 months ago. She was a beautiful blonde young woman wearing this flowing white dress, and she was singing light language. She had a gorgeous high soprano voice, and I guess she's a well-known singer in some country. I wish I remembered where. But it sounded very different, and it was still beautiful. So now I understand what you were saying is that, you could speak it, you can sing it, and it can sound different from other people's, but you can't be wrong with it. So what were you going to say?
It's kind of hard to start doing this and asking for that to come through you because you feel so strange. And, like I've had a few moments in the car where if you guys saw it, you would go, whoa, she needs some help, because it's so weird. And some, some of the other ways that it comes through, it's just beyond our comprehension, really. And the ways that it can activate us is beyond our comprehension. And I think this is just another part of my system of belief of this new higher frequency energy. We're coming back into what I would call maybe the Garden of Eden without the tainted dark pieces. And in that, maybe if we look at it from like a biblical point of view, there's like 12 lines of and each line has a different language and the piece of frequency that they hold, bringing us into a rainbow frequency of light. And they also share it through different singings and the symbols and perhaps some of the Egyptian symbols are a little bit magically divine light, and maybe the Celtic, old school, over here in this part of the world, and then maybe in the old ancient Chinese cool stuff that thousands of years back have the light language in it as well, and it was just tainted and we didn't understand over the thousands of years, and it's coming together through the different lines and the different tones and the different ways we express it.
Interesting. When you use this in your work, ladies, what would be some examples of how you would use it and what people might expect? I know you talked about the heart activation. That's a huge one for most people. Most people need that.
I think at least I do. Most people need a lot of heart activation and whatever to support them on their path, not because they're negative or bad, but because we all need it so much, and to learn how to flow with that unconditional love that we just don't quite get. For me, since each person is different, Terri-ann has, like that beautiful, like the way she does it with the beautiful color and the art and the movement. And I also do a little bit of movement, not as much, but colors and tones. And each person is different. Like I love all of the tuning forks, and it might not be someone speaking it, but that's also a frequency that goes into, sound goes into us and can lift us up, just like, if we turn on a song and we're all sad or upset, and then in the car we turn on a song and it empowers us, and like, yeah, I forgot, and it pulls us back into who we are. So it's part of my journey, at least, to help people heal their hearts and come back into their wholeness, worthiness, whatever direction, whatever perspective they have. So I use a lot of different ones, and I forgot I had these behind me. One of my favorite ones is color. And this is not exactly language like coming out, but if we, these are like color therapy glasses.
And those match Terri-ann's orange colored light language drawing.
I know, I wanted to ask her, like, are you getting a lot of oranges and yellows? Because I am at this time also, and however I can share with clients or friends, or look at it in my own self journey, it comes through colorful tones and beauty. And so I think the list is too long for me to even, but it's fun. It makes things fun.
Are you saying that you use it for everything?
Yeah, like sacred geometry. I see things in perspectives of sacred geometry for many years. So I've never been able to express that very well. So you just have it around, and then I give, the client or friends an idea, like, ooh, this matches you, and that can enhance their journey in whatever way. And so it's almost like you never know. And my prayer every day, how can I help? With God, how can I help? It comes in different ways, and I keep asking for it to be more fun, because this is tough. This world is a little bit crunchy and tough sometimes, and scary and disappointing. And so each person, I ask, how can I help in whatever way that'll uplift us and help us laugh a little bit and have some fun. So many ways: tones, colors, weird dorky glasses, talking in weird languages, all of it.
Okay. Terri-ann, when people come to you and you end up doing light language with them, what is it about them that lets you know they need that?
It's just an intuitive hit that I get. Usually it's this resonance that I feel, and I always say to them, what I'm going to tell you may sound a little out there, but this is light language, and this is innate to your part of you. So when I draw something like this too, and I'll have them lay it on their chest, and I just put my hands over it, the energy sort of transfers through me to them, and it activates something. And so, I can have 10 clients come in one day and I'm not guided to do any light language. But then another day I can have all these people come in and that's all I'm doing is light language. So there's no rhyme or reason. I think it really helps for a lot of my clients is to begin to get in touch with that truth, because that was part of my experience. This is my truth. This is who I am. It's part of me, innate to every fiber of my being. And so those clients come into me because they're now ready to experience what this truth means to them. And through the light language, I'm able to show them this is also part of your truth.
Like that. Well, all of us, when we're working with clients, I mean, there's things that we will remember vividly more than others about the outcome of doing certain work with our clients. So when it comes to light language, like what comes to your mind first about what a client said they received from the light language work you did with them?
I'd say my most profound client was that she just started weeping, weeping and weeping. And I kept telling her, it's okay. Just allow that all to come through for you, because that's what needs to be released now. We have to release those blocks. And she said, it felt when I laid it on her chest, and she said, it felt so beautiful, so safe. Like I've never experienced such love, she told me. And that's what brought the tears to her. And it was helping her to feel that love again, allow that heart to open up again, to realize that truth within her. So all of those things. And I was weeping through the whole thing.
Sometimes it's just impossible not to, isn't it? What about you, Melissa? What are some memories you have of clients' response to their session?
One of my favorites is a man that I have worked with, and we did a little mentoring together. I mean, I did mentoring for him, and man, he would be the last person that you would think would want to know about this or learn in these ways. So he chose it. He keeps over the last year and a half or so since I've known him, he surprises me at time and again. But in one in particular, we did a past life regression, and we used some of the light language and color and different things, tones as well. And he called me. His past life was a little bit tough. He was not the king of the world. He was not, it wasn't a fancy life. It was kind of rough, actually. And I said, well, okay, that's okay. I'm glad you got that one. And he emailed me quite long email about a month later, or maybe 2.5, 3 weeks later. And he said, this has changed my life. I know you said you were a little bit disappointed that it wasn't more exciting, or, we got more in this spiritual hypnosis that we did not get like really distinct, lists of answers and, guidance. And he said, but inside it changed me. And the writing, even though he wasn't in front of me at the time, it made me cry, because I have seen him. Oh, I just adore him. I've seen him because of some of the, like Terri-ann was saying, the releases of some of the deepest wounds and traumas and blocks that we have just grow and blossom in such cool ways. And he said it was that really kind of not as interesting or fun time, but we added in some light language that just broke him on free.
I was just going to say, where did the light language fit into this? Because I wasn't catching that, but I hear you now. So that's really good. Mm-hmm. It is amazing how sometimes the people you think will not be open to a service, will not be receptive, end up being getting the most benefit out of it. I guess if you need it, your soul knows you need it and will absorb it regardless of what your head's telling you. We've all
And
experienced those situations.
and sometimes it doesn't happen right in front of us. Like Melissa said, they go home and it may take time for them to integrate and to allow that release to come through, but inevitably, it did. How beautiful is that?
It really is. And I think it's so great. It's just another tool that you can use. And like you said, Terri-ann, you just know intuitively when someone needs something that you know, something that you get a hit like, oh my gosh, light language, that's what they need. Is it always about the heart chakra, though? I mean, about opening the heart?
No. For me, I do a lot of heart chakra work with clients, but is about shifting consciousness, you know, teaching them to understand there's another layer, there's another perspective for them to see that maybe they've not seen before. And so shifting that consciousness and to help them assist with this ascension, because now we're going through such a huge shift with our ascension, and the people that are coming in, some of them are really sort of off balance and off kilter, not understanding all that stuff. And that's the way that I was, not understanding what this was or what was happening with me. So that we have those types of people. We have the people that it's shifting a consciousness in them, that they're ready now to accept maybe something that 5 years ago they wouldn't have accepted.
It did occur to me that it might be gaining in popularity because of where we are as a planet, our people, on our evolution towards enlightenment. I wanted to ask you, because I couldn't find the information about this. I know I heard about light language quite a long time ago, and it was filed in a little back corner of my mind. I was aware of it, but never looked into it, never studied it. When did light language first come on the scene? When was it known?
I don't know. I had never heard of it before I started.
Me neither. I think for me, I have a mentor teacher that I've worked with for about a decade, and she mentioned it, and she said, "Do you like the light language?" And I said, "What?" I didn't know what that meant, but she said, "Well, we'll listen to this lady. What is this?" There's one lady named Judy Satori, Satori. She is my such favorite. And I learned the next steps from her, and the next steps from videos, YouTube's free stuff. And I didn't know where it came from, and I didn't know that some of the symbols, like the angelic or archangel light language that we had seen, and that looks like like an alphabet, but it didn't look like any alphabet we understand. I didn't realize that was actually light language. And then I went back into my mind, and I grew up in the middle, in the belt buckle of, is what I call it, in the Bible Belt. And so I was always fascinated with the Pentecostal background, which was around, I've never experienced it or been there, but one of the main things in some of the groupings there is to speak in tongues. And so that's genuine. It might not be great for somebody else. Someone else might not like it, but I think it's been around a really long time. It's just perhaps we've not seen it. We didn't quite understand the big concept of it, the biggest, the bigger picture. So I kind of wonder that question in myself, like, where did this come from, and why did we not get it? And how are we just now? To me, it seems like in maybe like the last 5 or 6 years, people are starting to express with light language, and we're starting to understand what it means more. That's just how I've seen it kind of unfold.
There's not a mother or a father of light language. Like sometimes with new things, what we see as new things, there's a person who receives the information and then they disseminate it out, but that person is known as the one who introduced light language. So there's not anybody like that, really. Must have come to multiple people around the same time then. That's more powerful to me. When multiple people are getting, hey, there's a light language, here's what it is, here's how to write it, here's how to speak it, here's what it does for people.
I think it's gaining popularity now because I read somewhere that there are more channelers on the earth than there ever has been. So I don't know how true that is, but I know that a lot of people that I do come across have channeled in one form or another. So it would make sense.
Several practitioners of light language have said that when they see the light language in their mind, that it's, and sometimes they dream it, it's always in glowing golden letters, like it has its own light from within. Is that true for you ladies?
Yeah, I see like, I want to say like, remember how you used to have the sparklers? You used to play with sparklers on the 4th of July and used to draw. Well, I was a child and I would continuously draw with my sparkler. And so to me, it sort of looks like that with that golden tone, how you have like the tail of it and it comes through, the light follows as you move the sparkler.
Interesting. Have you seen it like that, Melissa?
I don't see it sparkly. Maybe I do little spurts on occasion, but I don't see it that way. It's more, it's almost like blinding light, and often it is golden light as well. And yeah. And that's, I have a notepad in front of me when I'm doing sessions, and I could be on Zoom or I could be on the phone or people in person. And I just sort of doodle stuff. And I just remember seeing when it was a man that, it was a daughter of a man that I didn't know this had been in the military. She was like, I'm going to ask about Dad. So I had just been doodling, and I saw it come in very light language and through my hand, just with a regular pen and pencil. I would write this stuff, and I drew different pictures, and I saw it glowing in my mind on the paper. And she said, yeah, I'm going to ask about Dad. And I said, I'm seeing satellites and UFOs and these things. And I didn't want to say that. That's super weird. Even though I'm a starseed, I don't really want to say things sometimes. And she goes, yeah, he used to work at Area 51. And he was and I held it up, and it started, I mean, like, I think to both of us, she was on Zoom. It was glowing. And so that was one of my favorite ones too, because I drew all these pictures and these exact words of what the message was for her dad. But I'd been drawing it, 15, 20, 30 minutes before, and she saw it glow as well. And it was kind of like a little bit of a, when we turn the trees on the light on the Christmas tree, it sort of goes bing like that. And so that's kind of how I see it. And sometimes in the air and dreams and things like that.
I always wondered if that's why it's light language, is partially because people see it with the light from within. I don't know. I wonder these things. I ponder an awful lot, obviously. Anything else you want to talk about with your experiences? Like how did you get into this, Melissa? Was it just your teacher mentioning it to you, set you off on that journey?
And I can look back now as just being a little child, of course, and perceiving things that way, and knowing over the years not to ever express anything energetically because people just don't understand you. You have giant red lipstick on and you have big blonde hair. People are like, if you try to pull in those spiritual words and the science and the pieces, and so you kind of quiet. But it was the time where it became light language and like a solid foundation that others started speaking, singing, hearing, seeing, that I knew about was, probably, I think that one was like about 8 years ago, and it was with my mentor. And there's one lady here in Sedona that I've had her on my YouTubes for years, and her name is Jamie Price, and she has written ones, and I've ordered them, and sometimes I'll hold it if I'm working on a certain thing. So that's when the collective, the channelers, the healers, the light beings started saying, oh yeah, light language.
I'm glad you brought up Jamie Price. I was going to if you didn't, because I checked into her videos before we really talked about doing this topic, and she's in the Red Rocks and she's speaking it and doing movements, and it's very beautiful. A little Klingon-y, but that's apparently a running theme for a lot of people speaking it. or Gaelic. I don't know why I don't say Gaelic first. I'm much more tuned to Gaelic than Klingon.
It's a mix.
It
It's
is. It's
weird.
got a lot of the same sound. There's no. As I learned some Gaelic for singing, I realized how much it sounded a lot like Klingon. Terri-ann, what got you started with light language?
It just came to me when I started seeing portals, and when I came to Sedona, my whole life shifted. Everything changed. I mean, seeing spirit was sort of very natural to me from when I was young, but I didn't really understand it. But then I was like, oh my, I must be losing my mind. And that's when I came to see Roz, because I was like, I'm going crazy. Like, this isn't even possible. So for me, it was just, it came in very naturally, and I didn't really I had never heard it before. I never heard the term light language. I knew what sacred geometry was, but this was not like sacred geometry to me, because now I'm writing all these symbols and doing all these things. So for me, it was just an innate experience, just this waterfall of energy through me when I first started doing it.
Where do you see
And
yourself
a lot of people.
going with light language?
Hmm. I think there's so much for us to do while we're here. I don't know if we're ever going to accomplish it all. Sometimes if I think about like the big picture, I get so overwhelmed. So I try to just like stay in the moment. But I really feel like for us, we're here to teach others. We're here to let them know. And for people like me who didn't have any clue what this was, understand it more. And so bringing awareness about what it is, how you can understand it, and the activations, because we all are arising spiritually, right? We're ascending and we're these activations are stimulating to that piece of us. It's like, there's, remember ET phone home?
Oh, yeah.
That's a vision that I get a lot because it resonates with my childhood. But it's like we're here on earth, and there's a piece of us somewhere else, and that piece of us is connecting with us down here. And so even though our human self may not fully understand it, what we're doing is helping bring awareness about it, what it is, and how it can activate that within you.
It's so true about teaching others. I know a lot of people have said about our show, they'd never heard of something before till they saw it on our show, heard about it on the show, and then they felt compelled to look into it, to decide, that's something that they want to make a part of their practice or their life. I think that's a lot how it works for all of us, is you're exposed to something and it either resonates with you, whether you need it or you want to share it, or it doesn't, right?
Absolutely. That's a huge truth right there.
Gosh, Terri-ann, I think with your drawing in the orange, I can see that being even like something you might sell, these beautiful light language, with an interpretation of what it means. It's so lovely. I love the flowing lines of it. It's just very...
Yeah, it was really different. I've done a couple now, and this is one of them, but it's so very different than the typical. So I don't know if that I've advanced at what I'm doing, or it's just another language yet. I haven't had time to sit down and really ask what it's about.
I think there's a lot of flowing lines in everything that you showed. I don't know if you realize that, but there's a lot of beautiful flowing lines, so different from sacred geometry and its angles, sharp angles and circles. Yours are more flowing lines. It looks like art, an interesting type of art. So, there's a lot of people who buy sacred geometry drawings that means something and they post them. Would that work for light language, for people to draw, if they wanted to draw something in light language or have it drawn by one of you, and then they could put it somewhere and continue to get the lasting effect?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I do when I sell them, and they can, digitally download it. They can print it out, put it on their computer. If it is color, obviously they would need a color printer to print that out. But Yeah, absolutely. Because that, like, if you were to have that in your house, like any other, like my girlfriend does painting and she does Reiki infused paintings. So she just pours the paint pouring. This would be the same thing. You're getting the activation. It's with you now. So you can lay it on you. You can access it at any time. You can hang it in your home.
Interesting. Is it better to put that paper on your body, like to touch your body with it, or to have it just where you see it frequently?
I think it depends on the client, because some people are naturally, they're drawn to visually, other people are drawn to touching. So it's very specific to that specific client, what resonates with them. I'm touchy-feely, so I like to touch.
Do either one, excuse me, I got a hiccup. Do either one of you like to hold a crystal or anything like that in your hand as you're doing light language?
I have.
And I like to have clients choose some too, and I'll say, what are you drawn to? Because this, it's almost like it enhances, it brings it's like a magnifying glass to the light language. And so yes, and there's on that note, I have several things in my bedroom or hanging off the taped onto the side of the lamp, bedside lamp, that is pointed at me when I sleep, like healthy wholeness, and it's in light language, so it doesn't actually say something anyone could see, and some of it's similar to Terri-ann's drawings, which are spectacular, by the way. Oh, I can feel them from across the country. And sometimes I'll put some under the bed, and I have some in my office where I hang, and I change the picture every week or two, and change it. And I'm using a clamp in the air where I go, oh, and I have like 30 light language drawings, and change them. Like, oh, well, we need some positive healthiness, wholeness, and physical. And so I'll put that one up for the week, or things like that. So
It makes sense. It's sort of like if you like to wear stones, crystals against you, you might pick a different one based on what's going on with you. I want to push this anger down. I want to feel happier. I want to feel healthier. So it makes sense you would change out your light language. If somebody wants to get one of these drawings from you ladies, how do they best go about that?
Well, mine is on our website. So if you visit SedonaSoulSisters.com, you'll see in there the link for I think it's called light code activations, written light code activations, and they can find it through there.
Perfect. I just wanted to be sure what it was under so they knew that. Sometimes people get a little confused. They're looking for light language, so they're going to look for light activation code for you. What about you, Melissa?
I never actually thought about it, using that. Well, sometimes our services are a little hard to understand to people just coming into spiritual path. And I never thought about it, but I'm glad I have 1,000 drawings when I'm doing the readings. I mean, I'm glad to send those with each reading. I don't, whatever. Or I am also glad to do a light language spoken prayer activation coded for each person that wants it. I never thought about that. Just email me, and I will perhaps make that be a service that I can share.
You do like an audio, like a snippet of an audio, and send that the way that I sent you your spiritual hypnosis.
Yeah. Yes. Or Zoom. I'm glad to do a Zoom too. I mean, if it's because those are also recorded and we can share those. And I never even thought about it. Thanks for asking, because I thought, oh, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm happy to share the way I can.
So people could just book any service with you, but let you know in advance that they're going to want that light language to take with them or to have emailed to them.
Yes, thank you.
That is super easy. Oh, we have somebody joining us now. I feel kind of bad because we're right at the end of the show, but we'll let her get into the showroom if she can. Anything else you ladies feel like you wanted to say about light language today?
I want to tell a story about Terri-ann. I don't know if she's going to like this or not. So we got to work together, and now she's on the road, so I don't get to see her as much. And I miss her. One of the things that we did in a session, and we would just sort of do what we do, and we never asked, like, can it be in particular this kind of light language or this kind of symbolism or this? We didn't ask, and so and Terri, we were working on our what I would call Christed energy, our divine masculine, feminine, balancing our sacred union within. These are all different words. And I said, I think you're supposed to, lie down on the massage table and not sit up right now. And she was like, yes. And she knew what was coming. And I didn't exactly. I just knew it was big. But I saw her, and she was moving her arms, and she was kind of in a trance state in her meditation and what we were working together. And I watched her not only shake a little bit. So it's, what if the light language, what if God bringing in the flow of light in us, we just shake it in and are liberated from some of the heavy blocks. But I watched her shake, and I watched her write things in the air, and I thought, oh, she's gonna miss this, but this is awesome. So I watched her do it, and I watched her do it for, I don't know how long that was, maybe 50 minutes straight. And I promise you, there is not a single person on this planet that could have pulled that off, like faking it, pretending, doing anything. I was just like, whoa. And you could just see my perspective of her. I was like, whoa. And her energy and the light language going into her, as well as the codes that she was writing in the air, was also a little glowy, and it was super weird looking, but I was like, that was so powerful. Thank you, divine. Thank you, universe. Thank you, light, for showing us in this way. And the way Terri-ann receives is super fun. So when
it was done, right? When it was done, it was done. It was like nothing happened. I'm laying there perfectly still, like going from shaking and shaking to nothing.
Yeah. And you didn't even know. I kept watching her because I was like, okay, if she needs a break, we were responsible for each other in our works together. And we're like, okay, you go, girl. But if it's exhausting, intense, which it can be sometimes, receiving the light language, speaking can be intense. And that just means something's happening and activating. But I just kept watching her, and I'm like, there's no way she could have held that if she was. It's not that I ever thought that she was faking it anyway, but in my mind, I was like, man, no one could pull that off. And I don't think she really knew her hands were doing some things. And I was just like, okay, like, we had crystals in the office. We shared an office. I didn't actually see it, so this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but like the crystals over there were kind of glowing, and I'm like, woo, we're getting it. It's a download. I'm glad she's shaking and not me, because I was just like, I don't usually receive that way, but to watch the light language come through her, be pulled into her, activate her, code her. It was a beautiful thing. It just was a little peculiar. Maybe, like if someone drove by and was like, why are you just sitting there and watch that lady shake while she's throwing her arms in the air?
She's having a seizure.
That's why doors are closed.
Yeah, but it was beautiful, and I'm very honored and grateful that I got to experience that with her, and I also received it possibly in a different way, possibly not as much as she did, but it was spectacular, and it was a divine blessing.
It was beautiful. Thank you.
I love that story. Well, you've been watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show. If you'd like to know more information about us or our services, we invite you to visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any episodes, and catch our show later on all the major podcast channels. Tune in next week when our topic is dark attachments. So we'll likely be talking about dark entities, dark attacks will all be a part of that. It's something, phenomenon that's happening more and more and more to people, and we're going to be diving into that one. In the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.